RM Sotheby's is the world's largest collector car auction house by total sales. They are the preeminent market maker of high-quality collector cars and collections, regardless of size or complexity. By working in partnership with the Sotheby's team and its network of 80 offices in 40 countries, RM Sotheby's has established the largest client network of any collector car auction house in the world. Join the RM Sotheby's family by connecting with one of their car specialists at rmsotheby's.com or contact me directly at GStanley at rmsotheby's.com. All right, it's time for another update on supercar market trends. Now, which supercar increased over 120% over the last 3 years? Which one has lost 12% just in the last 12 months? And which one has appreciated the most over the last 5 years? So stay tuned for the Collector Car Podcast to find out. Okay, before we get to the supercar market trends, I did want to give you a couple updates, kind of like Where's Waldo, but Where's Greg? Like where I have been and where I'm going. So this week, as this comes out on Thursday, I'm at the RM Sotheby's auction in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I will have done some live streaming videos. So please go to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe, because if you subscribe, then you'll get an email heads up when I do a live streaming event. And I'm trying to do more of those. I'm going to live stream at Cavallino. There should be one on the channel from Barrett-Jackson as well as RM Sotheby's, trying to give you a behind-the-scenes taste of what it's like in this crazy car world that we love so much. So go check that out. So this week I am in Scottsdale, Barrett-Jackson, RM Sotheby's, maybe Bonhams, not sure on that yet. And then I'll be in Cavallino where I'm judging Ferraris. So I only have 6 cars in the class, so it should be a fairly quick judging session. And then I'll have time to walk around the show field. I'll do a live stream so you can feel like you're at the breakers in West Palm Beach, enjoying the show yourself. Now, I do apologize. I should have better gear happening this week. If you go back to some of my previous videos, it is with my iPhone, and my iPhone is of a version that does not have the stabilization option on the camera, so I apologize for that. I am using an Osmi, or whatever you call it, camera this week, so hopefully that will be better from a live streaming perspective. Okay, so where was I last week? So last week I was in South Florida trying to get some cars for the RM Sotheby's Miami sale. I visited and met with some great folks. The first one, and I'll show you some incredible pictures here, is the American Muscle Car Museum in Melbourne, Florida. Now, Mark owns this place. It's his private collection of cars, 450 cars, absolutely outstanding. I do have about a 20-minute live streaming video on my YouTube channel where you can walk and see all of these incredible cars. The main building is where the majority of these cars can be seen during private events and public events. So it's not open all the time. You just have to look at their calendar and see when they're having an event, and you can check this place out for yourself. I believe 100% of the proceeds, it's like $30 to get in, goes to their nonprofit of choice. Now, for the 2025 schedule, what they currently have showing is March the 22nd, they have the AACA Cape Canaveral Celebration of Cars. April the 12th, they have British and European Car Show. April the 19th, Drive Electric Earth Day. And April the 26th, Brevard ALZ Barbecue, whatever that is, but that sounds good. So Mark was incredibly generous, gave me a full tour, and I'm showing some of the live streaming video as this is rolling on YouTube here. But when you first walk in, it's basically the Ford GT room. You have these Ford GTs set up. It's the biggest collection, I believe, of Ford GTs in the world. Approximately 35 Ford GTs. It's really, really insane. But even though they call it the American Muscle Car Museum, there are about 80 Porsches on display. I'll flip a couple pictures up here. A 1998 Turbo S owned by, I don't know if it was Sultan of Brunei, but someone in the Middle East that is a royal person of royalty. Just this crazy Turbo S with some really cool colors. 2 cars from the John Dixon collection out of Dayton, Ohio, which this will come up in a later podcast. That's kind of how I got my first start with RM Sotheby's. A lot of paint to sample cars. 918, 2 959s, 2 Carrera GTs that were in the back shop getting a little bit of work done on them. A yellow 930, which I'd never seen one of those before. And what's really cool is Mark has an allocation for some special wishes Porsches, and it's a unique paint color. They only make 6 on offer. It's like opalescence or something. I can't remember the exact word he used, but he orders 3 at a time every year. 1 Targa, 1 Cabriolet, and 1 Turbo S of the same color. And this paint color option, apparently only 24 people have this opportunity, and he gets 24 lots. He gets 3 of those lots. The paint option by itself for one car is about $116,000. So for 3 cars, he's spending about $500,000 just in paint options. And they're absolutely stunning and beautiful. Now for this picture, if you look up on the top rack, you'll see 3 kind of hot pink cars covered up. That's one of the groupings of 3. That's the special paint code. So now, like I said, it's called the American Muscle Car Museum. And there's plenty of pony cars, sports cars, there's Shelbys, Corvettes, Cobras, Camaros, Novas, 1950s cars, pace cars, 18 Vipers, Yankos, prototype cars, wing cars, a ton of Mopars, including a PT Cruiser with only 50 miles. Now, a lot of Mustangs as well, including this orange on orange spectacular Mustang 2, super low mileage, like 15-mile 1995 Cobra R. Really, really cool. And then going back to the Ford GTs, there's 2 one-of-one cars, a Penske one that was made for Roger Penske, his classic blue with yellow stripes, and this bronze-looking one that Mark was able to order, one of one. Very, very cool. So go to my YouTube channel, check it out, and I'll post some more pictures on Instagram. Now, then I visited a private collection which included 2 Hemi Cuda convertibles. Now, I believe they only made 11 of these, and 2 of them were in this collection. Now, I just want to say that I would never show this picture if this was a private collection, but they host parties here, social events, in which all of these cars have been on Instagram or Twitter, X, whatever, for a while now. So I never share something unless it's already out there. Now, this is a very cool place. You can see there's a lot of cool cars. They have a great bar for set up for entertaining, a great pinball machine collection, and one of my favorite things, which I did not know existed, a left-handed Ford Motor Company pencil. So apparently Edsel Ford or the Deuce was left-handed, so when they were in charge at Ford, they made sure that there were left-handed and right-handed pencils for their employees. Now, how can you tell it's left-handed? And I did not get this, and I should have gotten this. I'm still scolding myself. So it's the same wooden pencil shaft, same eraser, same lead, same everything, except when you're holding it in your left hand, you can read the script. It's correct. It's right side up, so you can read it. It's not upside down. I'm a lefty. I should have picked up on that. And then after this, I went to the Creative Workshop, which is just outside of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. They do incredible work, ground-up restoration work, and they've shown at Pebble Beach. They've shown at all the major Concours events. And they had one of the most perfect Aston Martin DB4s I've ever seen. Spectacular, and I believe it's going to be at Amelia Island show coming up in a few weeks. Now, I was in South Florida. I was not far from Kissimmee, and I really wanted to go to the Mecum auction, but I was unable to make a trek over there. But I did crunch the numbers this morning, and I wanted to kind of pull out some of my insights. I really wanted to see if there has been a significant shift in the collector car marketplace in 2024, and this is like the first major auction. Now, this one is really tough. I don't know that it really gave me any super insights. The reason it's tough is Mecum Kissimmee will basically sell just about anything. I mean, if you look at their run list, there's used cars. There's a lot of cars from the 1990s, 2000s, 2010s that are just used cars. And so it's not really easy to get a temperature gauge. Now, I will call out some of the cars that sold tremendously well. 2 that popped up was a 1965 Shelby GT350, world record price, $900,000 before fees. Now, this car was spectacular. I don't know the whole history on it, but I know it was Colin Colmer's car. Great guy. He's a Shelby expert out of Wisconsin. Super nice guy. And I know that if he was selling the car, he had the provenance buttoned up. The condition must have been perfect, and 2 guys just had to have it. World record price. This is very notable because I don't know if I think it was Indianapolis last year. Mecum had 3 65 Shelby GT350 no sales at under $400,000, and then for this one they hit $900K, which is nuts. There was a 2006 Ford GT Heritage Edition that hammered for $910,000 before fees. I believe that was also a world record price, and it had like 7 miles, super low mileage. Yeah, so it was really hard. I mean, I'm digging into the Porsche, Ferrari, Mercedes numbers here, and I would, in my opinion, Mecum Kissimmee is not where you sell European brands, especially high dollar ones. So typically where you might look at auction results, and that would give you a fair read on what's going on. I don't know that that was the venue in which to do so. I typically will look at how did the 300 SL Mercedes sell? What was their price point compared to the estimate, and how did they do? So it was kind of a mixed bag. So I'm going to say let's wait, see how Barrett-Jackson fares. Let's see how RM Sotheby Scottsdale fares. That will give us, I think, a better read than Mecum Kissimmee. So just to kind of talk a little bit about some of those numbers, especially the European ones, from a Porsche perspective, they had 45 lots and only 18 of them sold. So 45% sell-through rate. Now, when you're looking at auction results, most auction houses, they consider the auction a success if they have an 85% or higher sell-through rate. So to only sell 45% of your Porsches is very, very low. Now these still might be selling. Like you try to sell in post-auction block, so when their results actually come out, it'll be interesting to see how things have changed, because they're working on selling these cars after they are no sales. Now, of the Porsches, I decided to look at price point as well. I looked at $100,000 as kind of the threshold. Only 15 cars hammered above $100,000, and of those, only 4 sold, so 26.7%. So that tells me of the 45 Porsches sold, you're looking at 30 of them were under $100,000. So Mecum Kissimmee is really for a sweet spot of under $100,000 car. Now for Ferrari, they had 30 lots and only 13 of them sold. So 43.3% sell-through rate. And this time I wanted to see, well, how do they do on the older Ferraris? So I picked out how many were pre-1978. Now there are only 12 that were pre-1978, and only one of those sold, 8.3%. So again, older stuff's not selling. European, newer stuff is selling a little bit better. All right, for Mercedes, they had a lot of Mercedes cars, 79 lots. And of those, only 63 sold. That's pretty good, though. That's almost an 80% sell-through rate on the Mercedes. Now, again, I wanted to look at the $100,000 plus cars. Only 14 of those 79 were over $100,000, and only 7 sold. So 50% sell-through rate once you reach that $100,000 threshold. Now then again, I wanted to look at how many cars were older Mercedes. And this one I took a newer cutoff, 1985. I just think kind of Mercedes, there's so many great Mercedes in the late 70s, early 80s, but only 15.2% of the Mercedes that were sold were pre-1985. Now here's what's really interesting. How did the cars above $1 million do? So for Mecum Kissimmee, they had 30 lots that hammered at $1 million or more, and only 7 of those actually sold. The most famous one that did not sell is the Jerry Seinfeld Porsche 917K. No sale at $25 million. If there was a real bidder around that $25 million price point, Jerry should have taken it all day long. I think that car at $25 million might have been overpriced. Now, 92% of the no-sale $1 million cars at Mecum Kissimmee were European brands. So if you only hear one thing from me, it's this. High-dollar European cars do not sell that well at Mecum Kissimmee. Now, the flip side of that is I wanted to compare that to RM Sotheby's, which excels at $1 million plus European cars. Now, this is not quite apples to apple because I'm referencing RM Sotheby's Monterey sale last year in August. Now, this is when I feel things are a little bit more uncertain because the presidential race had not occurred. People are a little bit nervous. So at their Monterey sale, they had 43 lots that hammered for over $1 million, and 33 of those cars actually sold. So 76.7% sell-through rate, and of those, 95.3% were European brands. So all this to say, if you have a car to sell, do your homework, figure out not only which auction house, but which location makes the most sense for you to offer your car to get the best possible price. So, if you need help with that, obviously, shoot me a note, GStanley at rmsotheby's.com or Greg at the Collector Car Podcast. All right, let's get on with some supercar market trends. All right, thanks for joining me on the Collector Car Podcast. We are going to cover a bunch of supercars here, not all of them because there are a lot out there nowadays, and I am using Hagerty valuation tools to do so. They do not have like Pagani's or Koenigsegg's in their database, so those are not included, but I will include quite a few here, and I'm going to kick it off with A and go alphabetically for the most part. Actually, no, I take that back. I do mix it up here in a little bit. All right, we're going to start off with A, the 2005 Acura NSXT 3.2 liter Targa. Now, over 1 year, it's worth $295,000, up 25% over the latest 1 year. Latest 3 years, almost up 44%. And over 5 years, yes, this is one of the answers from earlier. It's up over 130% over the latest 5 years. All right, next is the 1995 Bugatti EB110 SS, worth $2.8 million in number one condition. Latest 1 year, down over 13, almost 14%. Latest 3 years is actually flat, but latest 5 years up 33.3%. Next is another Bugatti, the 2015 Bugatti Veyron Super Sport, worth $2.8 million. Latest 1 year up 5.7%. Latest 3 years up 5.7%. And latest 5 years up 16.7%. Next is a car that you need to get now if you ever want to have one, the 2019 Chevrolet Corvette ZR1. Specifically, I'm talking about the manual versions. Number one condition says $222,000. Now, this is one of them where I don't believe the numbers here. It says latest 1 year up 0.9%, latest 3 years up 0.9%, latest 5 years up 0.9%. Those are not correct. So I will have to update this again in the future. These cars have only been out for 5 years, 4.5 years or so, and they have definitely gone through the roof, especially the manual ones. All right, next is a 1980 Ferrari F40 worth $3.45 million in number one condition. Latest 1 year, believe it or not, up 0.0. They are flat the latest 12 months, but latest 3 years up 32.7%. And here's a big number. Latest 5 years up 115.6%. We all know the F40s have been going through the roof. Another car that's been going through the roof from a valuation perspective is the 2004 Ferrari Enzo. Number one condition, $4.85 million. Latest 1 year, up 1%. Latest 3 years, though, up 31.3%. And latest 5 years, up 56.5%. I think those still have quite a ways to go, considering the number that were produced when you compare that to the F40. All right, next is the 2017 Ferrari LaFerrari Aperta. Number one condition, $5.8 million. This is very interesting because I'm going to compare this also to the McLaren P1 as well as the Porsche 918 Spyder. $5.8 million. Latest 1 year, flat. Latest 3 years, up 3.6%. Latest 5 years, up 20.8%. Now, those went up quite a bit as soon as they were released, which explains the slower growth over the last 1, 3, and 5 years. The McLaren P1, worth not even half the amount of the LaFerrari, $2.1 million. Latest 1 year, down 10.6%. But latest 3 years, up 23.5%. Latest 5 years, up 27.3%. All right, the third hypercar of that group is the Porsche 918 Spyder. Number one condition, worth $1.95 million. Latest 1 year, flat. Again, latest 3 years, up 30%. Latest 5 years, only up 13.6%. So these have slowed recently, which is surprising. So it's interesting that both the LaFerrari Aperta as well as the Porsche 918 Spyder were both flat latest 12 months, with the P1 down almost 11%. Now, the modern day GTO, the 1992 McLaren F1, number one condition, $24.5 million. Latest 12 months, up 2.1%. Latest 3 years, up 8.4%. Latest 5 years, up 39.2%. All right, next we have the 2005 Porsche Carrera GT, $1.85 million in number one condition. 1 year, up 8.8%. 3 years, up 23.5%. Get this one, 5 years, up 87.8%. I remember when those were trading just around $600,000, $700,000. Now they're almost up to $2 million. All right, next is the one I mentioned in the opening, the 1994 Jaguar XJ220, worth $600,000 in number one condition. 1 year change, down 12%. 3 year change, up 4.8. 5 year change, up 13.3. All right, one of my favorite cars of all time, the 1986 Lamborghini Countach LP 5000. Number one condition, worth $800,000. 1 year change, up 6.4. 3 year change, as you would expect, up 55.3. 5 year change, up 70.2%. I think those definitely have further to go, especially the last year of the carbureted engines. 1986, keep an eye on the Countaches. Next is a much better driving car, the 2001 Lamborghini Diablo VT 6-liter, worth $645,000 in number one condition. 1 year up 3.7, 3 years up 41.2%, 5 years up 62.5%. I think those still have a ways to go, especially when you compare them to the Countaches. In my mind, love the Countach, but Diablos are prettier and much better cars to see out of as well as to drive. All right, next one, we're getting really crazy. The 2010 Lamborghini Murcielago LP 674 SV. Now, the key here is there's a 35% increase if it's a manual car. Number one condition, $1.15 million. Latest 1 year up 9.5%. 3 years up 122.9%. And 5 years up 125%. Next is the 2012 Lexus LFA Nürburgring Edition. One of 50 made. Nobody wanted them when they were new. Cost about $50,000 more than the base car. Now they're worth more than twice as much as the base car. Worth $2 million, number one condition. 1 year change, up 5.3%. 3 year change, up 25%. 5 year change, up 84.7%. All right, we just have 4 more to go here. Let's start off with the 1998 Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR. Very rare supercar. Number one condition, worth $10 million. Latest 1 year, it's flat. Latest 3 years, up 33.3%. Latest 5 years, up 122.2%. Now, this is the one I've called out, as well as the Porsche GTR one, as being tremendous investments for long-term growth. You compare these with the McLaren F1. McLaren F1 is more than twice as expensive, worth twice as much, but they all raced against each other. So I feel like the Mercedes, in particular, because it looks better than the Porsche, has more room to grow over these next few years. Next is the 2009 Sailing S7 Twin Turbo, one of the prettiest cars out there, in my mind. It's worth $573,000 in number one condition. 1 year results, it's flat. 3 year results, it's flat. 5 year results, up 4.2%. I think the drivability hurts on these cars somewhat, as they're not the easiest ones to get around a track or a road. All right, 2 more to go. 2 Vectors. First gen Vector, 1993 Vector W8, worth $1.3 million. 1 year up 4%. 3 years up 4%. 5 years up 4%. Those really haven't grown much over the last 5 years. I know RM Sotheby's had, I think, 4 or 5 Vectors, first and second generation, out at Monterey this year. Now, the second gen, the M12, this one's a 1999 Vector M12, worth $270,000 in number one condition. 1 year up 21.1%. 3 years up 21.1%. 5 years up 28.6%. Interesting cars. They have the Lamborghini Diablo power plant, which I think makes them more desirable than the first gen when it comes from a usability perspective. Very, very cool cars. All right, as always, thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. Please share with your friends, and I will talk to all of you next week.